There are different levels of depth at which games can excel. You have the surface level qualities, such as the graphics, music, and overall presentation. Then you go one level deeper, where you have gameplay. A little deeper, and you get to the story and characters. Then you get to the deepest level, which consists of the little details and polish that add aura to the game. This level is often overlooked, but it can have the biggest impact on a game's perceived level of quality. Arkham City is one of the rare games that absolutely soars at each of these levels. The open world here is actually deceptively small. Towering skyscrapers in the background give the illusion of one that's much grander in scope. There are also a respectable amount of explorable interiors in this game, and each one provides its own sort of hub world. The vibes are further elevated by the music. This here is an orchestra that has the power to bring the dead back to life. One that can go toe-to-toe with the likes of Hans Zimmer. This game turns its modestly sized open world into one of its greatest strengths. The game is teeming, oozing, busting at the seams with seemingly endless Easter eggs, collectibles, secrets, and intrigue everywhere you look. You can find the hidden, fat, bald-ass calendar man. He'll tell you a story if you meet him on certain dates listed on the calendar next to him. You can find one of the most peculiar of motherfuckers lying down here. There's so much environmental storytelling here, and the great thing is that the Riddler challenges incentivize you to seek out as much of this as you can, and add a degree of interactivity to these environmental touches. The city's also dense from a visual perspective. Instead of having it simply be a collection of standalone buildings that could have made the city feel static and dull, there's a vast variety of structures that fold in and weave into each other seamlessly. The developers made the absolute genius decision of populating the city with the goons instead of regular civilians. They knew that if they filled the city with regular civilians, they would need to figure out a way to have Batman have believable interactions with each one of them, which is damn near impossible. Not only because they need to program a unique interaction with each NPC to maintain the level of quality that these developers shoot for, but also because it's impossible for Batman to interact with regular NPCs without him looking like the goofiest of motherfuckers. He'd just be walking around like the stiffest of dicks.
Hi, I'm Batman. I am a knight. Fear me, fucker.
Nobody would take him seriously. Given this issue, the developers said, okay, Arkham City's a prison, so there shouldn't be any civilians roaming around. But there'll be a lot of goons roaming around, and we don't need to figure out how to have Batman have believable interactions with each goon, because the only interaction that needs to be had with a goon is fist to face. But don't worry, the world will still feel alive. In fact, it'll feel even more alive than games where the open worlds are filled with civilians, because you'll be able to hear the goons and even the main villains constantly talking in the background about things related to what's currently happening in the story. And now, because there are much fewer friendly NPCs in the game, the developers were able to take the time to program believable interactions with each one of them. The thing about this game is that everything is story-driven. There are no bullshit tasks that make no sense. Everything that's available to do relates back to the story in some way. Let's take the collectibles. Any lesser game would have placed bullshit feathers or other meaningless trinket for you to find throughout the world with no story-driven reason as to why you're collecting them. Or they'll try to tie it back to the story, but it'll be in a way that's either superficial or simply makes no sense. It ends up making the collectibles feel tedious and pointless. But here, finding the collectibles almost feels like it's part of the main story because of how well it's related back to the story, in that all of them were placed throughout the city by the Riddler. It's also not enough to just find them. You need to find them and then figure out how to get to them by solving a puzzle using your gadgets and even using your brain at times. He comments as you collect them, and it leads to hostage missions and eventually to Riddler's own whereabouts. No other game in history has done collectibles this well. Each mission also organically leads to the next. Oh look, somebody shot a bullet through here, so you measure the trajectory of it to see where it came from. It came from this building, and turns out the Joker shot it, and he's saying some bullshit through the radio. But the building's loaded with explosives and it's about to explode in 3 seconds, so you need to GTFO pronto. But wait, knowing Rocksteady, or at least the old Rocksteady, maybe something will happen if you stay in the building after the countdown. And sure enough, it leads to this hidden dialogue. After listening to Joker's extra yapping, the building's really about to explode, so you jump out the window, and you need to get to Joker to learn more about this Protocol 10 nonsense the evil bald-ass Hugo Strange has been babbling about. And you're gonna find out where Joker is, not by using a waypoint artificially placed by the developers on the map, but by tracking Joker's fucking radio frequency, which is a subtle change, but makes a huge difference when it comes to making you feel more immersed. Each objective seamlessly leads to the next. It's not like, hey, go here to trigger a mission. Good, mission's complete. Now go here to trigger the next mission, monkey. You're also organically led to side missions via environmental cues. You hear a phone ringing that catches your interest. You find out that Zaz, aka the bald-headed bastard who always sounds like he's one lick away from busting the biggest of nuts, is holding people hostage.
It cannot be over.
You find a dead body and it leads to the hunt for a depraved lunatic. The game just went against all the modern gaming garbage of hand-holding, over-reliance on the minimap. What really set pre-Suicide Squad Rocksteady apart is the level of polish they put into their games. Their games just oozed luxury. This company was the goddamn Audemar's Piguet, the Richard Millet of games. They were in a small group of AAA developers that just went above and beyond to make their games as high quality as possible. And you can see that passion splattered all over the game as you play. Every minute detail is accounted for here. Just play Arkham Origins after playing this game and you'll notice the obvious drop in quality. Even though that was a good game, it didn't have that the Rocksteady Arkham games do. You know what I mean? These developers also cracked the code when it came to perfecting hand-to-hand combat. The feedback you get when your fist makes contact with a goon's ugly fucking face arouses a dopaminergic alpha neodendritic response in your brain, resulting in a feeling of pleasure. You can feel the crunch, the crushing of a bandit's bone, caused by the impact of fist to fucking face. The combat also has a rhythm to it. Once you get into the flow of it, you enter this meditative state where you're locked in, jumping from bozo to bozo like a pinball, smashing motherfuckers' skulls, cracking their arms, breaking their legs, rendering them impotent, beating them senseless, and sending them back to the void. I don't know how they came up with this wholly original fighting style in this series, but it has since changed the gaming landscape as a whole, and with it, the very fabric of the known universe itself. Also, this isn't like all the other games where you watch the same attack animations over and over during combat. In this game, your attack animations never get repetitive. I don't know if that's because there's a million different attack animations, or if it's because I just don't notice that I'm watching the same ones over and over. The hit counter is also a genius addition because it makes the combat account for players of different skill levels. Casual players who suck ass can pick up and play without giving a damn about maximizing the hit counter, while those looking for more of a challenge can try to maximize it by seeing if they can take out a group of bald-headed bandits without taking a single hit or missing a punch. It adds an optional layer of challenge. This game also features some of the most badass of boss fights, especially the one with Mr. Freeze. You couldn't face him head on because he was too powerful, so you had to sneak around while he followed your tracks like the most menacing of motherfuckers. What really set this fight apart was that you couldn't use the same attack twice, because the big blue bald-headed bastard would adapt to your moves. There's so much more I could talk about here. The gliding, the voice acting, the story, but everything's already been said about those things. If you take one thing away from this stupid-ass video, let it be this. With this game, the Rocksteady we used to know created a ripple in the space-time continuum. A ripple that hasn't been sealed since. This is really the most timeless of classics. A pivotal piece of gaming history, the likes of which are only seen a handful of times per generation.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.